I hope you can hear me well in the back as well. I'm so glad to see so many people here. Unfortunately, the lights are a little bit disturbing me. Well, DoS and DDoS. We have heard already so many things about the possible attacks. Why do we need a protection? I have decided to change the agenda a little bit because the presentation is what you will get. There is a lot of notes in it where you can find the technical details. I would like to talk more about what does it mean security protection and DoS and DDoS protection. Maybe I will skip a couple of slides. And at the end or during, I would like to give you some real-life examples which happened in Czech Republic. I think it was 4 months ago. There was a huge DoS and DDoS attack, so we will get details about it as well. In the IT technology, I started in 1984. Then in the beginning of 90s, I did a lot of web development related to security as well. During that time, there was a really wild world out there. We didn't have a real technique how to protect against a lot of attacks. And especially when we talk about DDoS nowadays, they are performed using botnets. This 15 years ago, we used botnet for a positive stuff. Fortunately or unfortunately, now they are used for negative stuff. And really, the world since the last 15 years has changed a lot. It's not about that there is new threats or that the hackers or attackers have learned something. We still use the same technology. We still live in the same TCP/IP world than these 15 years ago. The RFC for TCP/IP hasn't changed. What has changed is what kind of a service do we offer to our customers and in which form. At the late 90s, I developed a web application for a distribution firm to cover all of the paperwork. And during the time, they asked me, why do I develop it as a web application and not a client server, that nobody will use a web application. Now we can laugh about it. Now all of the applications, they have a web face. Everything is moving towards web. Everything is even moving towards cloud, where the world is really going to be virtual. And as you can see, I talk about applications, I talk about services, I talk about web, and not about connection or throughput or network. There is a difference of how we will approach the security focus overall. There is an XLA network which has a high throughput with low latency because of the fiber optics. This 15 years ago, it sounded like a science fiction to us. And now 10 gigabits using fiber optics is a business as usual for all of us. And there is a different approach from F5 networks. We have a technology for application delivery or for traffic management. Give the guys a second, please. All right. We see it from a different point of view. You basically don't offer network to your customers. You don't offer throughput. You offer services. So we try and we protect the service itself, not on the network level. We do it on the application or on the service level itself. That's why the portfolio, even of the DoS and DDoS attacks, is wide. Like the portfolio of your services is wide as well. The main challenge here is to find out which solution or which mitigation will suit our environment or your environment, your application, your services for your customers at the best. And the bad news is there is no single magic. There is no single technology, no single vendor which will offer you, we have a complete solution. If you hear something, this is not true. That's why only a combination of different methods or different mitigations can be the only successful, so a combination of it. And really there is a big difference whether we see it from a network point of view, which means layer 3, layer 4, or from the application point of view, even from the session point of view. That's why, yes, only a combination can give you a complete protection. When we start to talk about DoS and DDoS, then we, of course, start to talk about it at the network level. Okay. There can be a lot of techniques, there can be a lot of technologies, as I have already mentioned, but the first question which comes to my mind is, what would you do if a network pipe will be filled? What kind of possibilities you have at your premises if such an attack occurs? The answer is you can do nothing. Once the pipe is full, you are done. That's why this kind of a protection has to be moved a little bit away of your premises, away of the data center, away of the cloud, to the network itself, to the SP network. There is a techniques how to mitigate such attacks at the SP. This is not a job for F5. Because once the pipe has been filled, no requests will reach the premise anymore, so the clients will see the service as unavailable. Let me skip this one. So if we move away all of these slides and all of the situation I will talk about will be regarding services. F5 tries to make the service to be always available. So once it has reached your premises, we have to figure out whether it is only a heavy load and then try to handle it with a lot of optimization techniques like for TCP optimization, SSL offload, and so on, or to recognize whether this is a real DoS and DDoS attack. If, for instance, at the network level, we have a chance to do a rate shaping, but then we rate shape only or we don't rate shape the good traffic, then everything will get rate shaped. Under the DoS attack, the web servers or the application servers will be already affected. So the customers will not be able to use it. Let me skip this one as well. All right. Again, it's not only different applications or different services which we can use, but there even is different devices which approach or which utilize, which use your services. And every access requires, or every use requires, again, a different method. How to do a good DoS and DDoS protection. We have to see it more diverse. And this cannot be done on a network level. Network level sees only IP addresses, nothing else. We need to see the service, what is inside, and how to make this service to work. If I talk about service, it's not only HTTP. We can talk about SIP, DNS, FTP, SMTP. We talk about services. This is my lovely slide. I think I will spend more of the time of my presentation with this one. Here you see the categorization of all of the possible DoS and DDoS attacks, starting at the network level, continuing up to the application level. Again, we neither say that if you use F5, then everything will just boom and you will be without attacks. No way. No technology can do that. This is where you see what kind of attacks do we cover. But the idea or the nature of a DoS attack, what actually is a DoS attack? It's a denial of service. So I make the service unavailable. On a network level, the only thing is that I fulfill the pipe. This is what we have already discussed. But if we talk about layer 7, if we go a little bit higher, an example of a DoS attack, I will use, for instance, HTTP. You all use search engines. Google, I think, is the mostly used. And if you want to be more wide in your search, then you include a star in the search string. Is star a valid character which can be in the search? Yes, of course. Does it fulfill the network pipe? No. So on the network level, it still looks okay. If it goes through, for instance, web application firewall, it's a valid request as well. But it has much higher impact to the application server and to the database engine as well, because it has to search through more records. This could be a good example of a very successful DoS attack, denial. Valid request, but still with a higher impact. DDoS stands for distributed denial of service, which means I can do it from more computers. More doesn't mean tens. More can mean even thousands. And this is the botnet. A lot of computers, they cooperate together in a bad way, of course, and they do attack to the same target or to the same victim. An example or how to do a DoS and DDoS attack. Okay, let's talk about the Czech Republic. 4 months ago, all of the Czech Republic was under huge DDoS attack. I think that during the first day it was the news. Second day it was all of the banks, and on third day it was for all of the web portals. All of them were successful, no exception. All of the Czech Republic literally went down. Fortunately, once the attackers have recognized that, wow, we are successful, this is the way how we can bring everything down, because they saw it down, they stopped. So the outage was only for 1 hour, approximately. So based on my hacking history, I told myself, all right, what if I personally want to do such an attack? So I sit behind a computer, I went to Google, and I tried to Google out whether such information or such tools will be available publicly. I was shocked. Hundreds of tools there. The only thing you have to do is either download and install a small program on your computer, or go to the botnet website, register there, and then you only specify IP address and port. You pay. You can pay cash, bank transfer, credit card. I wouldn't use this because this is how they would recognize you that it was this guy, or PayPal. Using PayPal is anonymous. And then you only click start. And all of the world would went down. For the Czech Republic, based on the amount of the bots which you want to use, based on it, the price is calculated. It would cost me $2,000. And in 15 minutes, all of the internet banking would be down. Now I have a lot of ideas in my mind. First of all, why they are still up, if it's so easy. Philosophical question, I know. Second, wow, this can be misused during marketing campaigns. And this is, for instance, what happens in Slovakia. If an entity whose majority of the business goes through web tries to market a new product, then all of the competition does a DoS or DDoS attacks, so that the customers will not be able to access their service and see what is the offer. Third is, why don't they use any DoS or DDoS mitigation technology? And we can continue with this discussion for hours and hours, because everybody knows that such a technology exists. Everybody tells me that we don't need it. Okay. We don't have such attacks. To this argument, I have that there is no admin who doesn't have any attacks. There is only admin who doesn't know about them. And the third is, and I think this is the most reliable, how much would it cost me to apply a DoS or DDoS protection? And if I don't have this technology, how much would the loss be? If my loss is below the investment into DoS and DDoS, then of course why to spend money for a technology I don't need? During the days, the next week, we immediately got requests. How does your DoS and DDoS protection work? Can you please show us? Can we do some tests? This is what we, of course, did with results. Some of them were good and some of them were bad, because the technology for DoS and DDoS protection, and now I'm talking not only about F5 but about any, has to be strong enough. Because if the DoS or DDoS attack takes down the technology itself, then it's even more successful DoS or DDoS. Then the question is how much we let to go through to hit the actual application environment, and how much we will block, and which one will we block. 3 examples. It's on the first row, it's the SYN flood protection. Technically speaking, SYN flood is for half-open connections that the attacker sends only SYN packets without really establishing the TCP connection. The thin flat protection is implemented in our technology, in our operating system, so there is no need to configure it. It's already there. The only thing you have to adjust is the threshold. So during the attack, I got a lot of calls that you have told us that there is a thin flat protection in your technology, but all of our web services, they are down. I told them, lower the threshold. When the protection has to start, once they lowered, everything immediately started to work in 5 minutes. That's on the network level. Together with the TCP optimization and other acceleration and optimization techniques which are included in the F5 technology, maybe you remember it was 1.5 years ago when Anonymous announced a global and big DDoS attack to the online card payment systems. Everyone was down. Visa down. MasterCard down. Except for PayPal. PayPal was the only available, even though slow, very slow, but still available. Because behind F5 technology. No marketing, this is a real story. The same counted for the Czech, this 4 months ago, where there were F5, and where the threshold was adjusted not to let go through more than the actual application environment is able to cope with, then these services were available and have worked, even on a network level. Okay, then we can talk about DNS. DNS can be under huge DOS and DDoS attack as well. The main goal or the main approach what we use for SIP, HTTP, and DNS is, first of all, the technology itself has to be strong and powerful enough to be able to cope with. And we measure behavior. How many requests is there per second? How many concurrent connections there is? How many transactions? Is it a normal trend or is there any kind of an anomaly? For HTTP, we measure the average latency of the application response. How fast can the application server respond to user requests? DDoS is denial of service, so I make such a request which make the application every service to stop answering to the user requests. So once we see that the average response time of an application goes up, and when it reaches a predefined and certain threshold, then we start to measure how many requests or transactions per second there is within this connection. And when we see an increase there as well, then we can either rate shape, but not the complete network pipe. We either rate shape only accesses from a particular IP address or for a particular user session. And if the user is authenticated on the F5 device, even only for this user and for this exact session. Can be done in combination that only with access to this particular URL. So we know exactly this is the bad guy doing bad things, attacking this small part of my overall environment or of my application. And we block or rate shape only these exactly attack types or attack pipe. For DNS and for SIP, we measure only number of requests per second. The algorithm is as well like for HTTP, we measure the history from the last second, minute, hour. Because, and this is actually what I have forgotten to mention, how to differentiate. The biggest issue is how to differentiate, is it a DoS attack or is it a high demand? 9 o'clock, everybody comes to the office. What you do as a first, you open your computer and you open a browser and you open an email client. So then hundreds or thousands of people in a short amount of time, they immediately go to the same targets. Is it a DoS attack? In the morning, you would like to immediately read your emails, what is new or what has happened, what do I have to do? So we have to enable such a communication. So the main issue is to differentiate whether it is a high demand or whether it is a DoS attack. That's why we measure it for the last second, minute, and hour. How the algorithm is really implemented inside, don't ask me because I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't be here. I would be doing development. But, well, this is the idea. Is it a DoS or is it a high demand? If the attack is even distributed, then we have as well two options. Still be able to cope with the load. This is how we do for DNS and SIP. To have more power, for DNS we can act as a slave. Your current DNS infrastructure will stay as a hidden master. So all of the requests will go to the F5 device doing a DNS server. Even the smallest one is able to cope with 500,000 DNS requests per second. The biggest one, I think, is 18 million or 16 million. So literally all of the check can be served by one device. For HTTP, to be able to recognize, I hope it's mentioned here, bot. It's definitely there. Botnets. You can use botnets for distributed denial of service attack with this $2,000. And for botnets, we detect human activity behind a request, and that's just for HTTP. To make sure that it is a real user there. Technically speaking, we insert JavaScript into the server responses which reacts to mouse moves or keystrokes. Normally you move your mouse when you browse a web application from one link to the another. This is how we can recognize, this is not a real user, but this is a botnet. And again, either stop it or rate shape it. A very good success story for the botnet protection comes from the UK. 4 years ago, Ryanair and EasyJet, they of course claim that they have the cheapest flight tickets in Europe. Actually, for a single flight they do. The rest is for a different discussion, but Expedia is a portal, or was a portal for airline tickets online selling. What they did was that automated tool, bot, just scrolled or browsed through the Ryanair and EasyJet web page, where from the bot took number of available seats plus the actual price for a flight ticket. automatically it included this offer to Expedia website with some additional cost or with some margin. So the guys from Ryanair and EasyJet, they started to block IP addresses where from they saw such requests. But it's, again, very, very easy to use a different proxy and to get all of the information or to go through the website through different IP address. So they couldn't block millions of IP addresses and react flexible enough. They implemented our technology with this human behavioral recognition, and the success was almost immediate. Within couple of minutes, they have seen, okay, now we are getting only normal users. I have mentioned IP addresses. Such a technique, of course, exists, and this is the third approach which we use. First is to protect the network in the number of requests, then to protect the application, that we see that the normal behavior, normal response time of an application is such and such, and to still allow. Third approach is using or knowing bad IP addresses. We have a cooperation with reputation blacklist database IP addresses provider, and now I have forgotten the name. They have agents all around the world which react to a behavior or which react to attacks. Such a database is updated every 5 minutes. So if anywhere in the world somebody has recognized, oh, there is a huge attack from this IP address, then this IP address will be immediately included into this RBL, and within 5 minutes your F5 device will get updated as well and will be blocked even on a network level. All of the accesses will be blocked immediately. This approach, there is no sophistication in it, there is no heuristics, there is no logic. It's pure based on IP addresses, but can be used successfully against different attacks as well. This can be used as an anti-spam. IP addresses of spam mail servers, they are known. They are included into this RBL. A good DoS attack is done using spoofed IP addresses. Then when you respond to the attack, then you attack another target. Then you become this attacker. If a request comes from such a bad IP address, then no response will be sent, no RST, no nothing. And of course, can be used for classical and normal DOS and DDoS protection. That's basically it. I have 1 minute left. Is there any questions, please? If you want to see all of these nice things I have told you about in a real life, Aleph Nula is our Hungary disti. So please contact them and we can come to your premises or to your customers. We can install an evaluation box and we can do a proof of concept for your environment, for your needs, for your application, for your customers to see whether this would be the correct approach, and you will see the results by yourself. Then please contact Aleph. Thank you very much for your attention.